So welcome. Thank you everybody for being with us. We are really excited to be doing this again, and we're excited to be doing more of these talks, and we're happy to see some of you returning and some new faces, and we really hoping to build a bit of a community around this work and this information and just see what we can give. So thank you so much for being with us. I really hope that you enjoy it and you tell your friends to join us.
Yeah, it's definitely about adding value and really just sharing from a heart space, and if it helps, I do not believe that we teach anybody anything that they do not know, but if it helps, if there's something in it that you can apply, even if it's just one thing you get to take out of this, it feels like we have added value, which is really what this is about.
Yeah. So just some housekeeping. I have muted everybody. We are recording this, and we have said, because it's so difficult in time zones, and we seem to have a lot of people on the Pacific side of America, and it's a bit late for them, or it's a bit early for them rather, that we will send out the recording when we are finished. So just to let you know that, and then we're going to be having a screen share on for most of our talk. If you would like to see us a little bit bigger, you can just simply drag it over. You've got the controls in Zoom to make us bigger or smaller, as well as change the view from speaker view to gallery view. So those controls are in your top right-hand corner in Zoom. Just move them around as you need to. And then also would love for this to become interactive. So if you guys want to stop us at any time, just put up your hand, either with your actual hand, and if we can see you, we will get to you. Otherwise, if you push the reactions and put your virtual hand up, I think that notifies us as well, because depending on how many people are here, we might not see everybody in one go. That was a mouthful. I think that's my housekeeping. Have you got housekeeping?
No, I think you're good.
But if you don't have anything that you want to say during our talk, you're welcome at the end to give us some questions. We would love to. Love to talk to you guys. Next, right. So my name is Catherine Wolf.
And my name is Renier Jooster.
And we have this amazing company called Paqarina. And what we do is we help spiritual seekers to move from fear to self-love. Because when you do that, it changes everything. To go from the outside world to the world inside.
Like I say, adding value.
So what we're going to share with you tonight, so our talk is titled "To Give is to Receive," and we actually, when we finished our talk last week, we came up with this topic just spontaneously, immediately. It was like, yes, it just following from self-love. It's so fitting to speak about how we give what we receive, and we receive what we give. So within this talk, we're going to speak about how you can only give what you've got, how the giving and receiving really happens at the same time, and how to give is to receive. And then how do you give to yourself? How to take back your power, how to use your willpower to choose something else, because we have more power than we think. And what does it mean to be in flow, and understanding doubts and conflicts and what this does to our flow. And then we're going to share a couple of tools with you through the talk, 3 of them.
So the very first one, you can only give what you've got. And I think this picture illustrates it perfectly. Like a skeleton that does not have much is like, yeah, come here, I will give you what I've got. And to understand you can only give what you've got, we are not really talking about this outside world, this physical world of form. We are really talking about what it is that you have on the inside, and not even what it is that you have on the inside for the world outside of yourself. I'm not talking about being kind or caring or compassionate to another person. What I'm talking about is being kind or caring or compassionate to yourself. And especially when things get tough, to be in that place where we get to be like, okay, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with whatever this is, how it's presented. And for me to be okay, I need to give to myself first. And what is it that I'm giving to myself to be okay? Because mostly with this outside world happens and we are not okay. And then it is because what is it that we are giving ourselves? Chaos, fear, uncertainty, insignificance, as opposed to the other side, kindness, caring, compassionate to myself. So we're going to explore that a little bit deeper.
Yeah, it's like we're so used to thinking about this giving and receiving thing in terms of the world. Like it seems so obvious in the world that if you ask me for something and I don't have it, I can't give it to you. And I can literally only give you what I have myself. And if I don't have it and I want to give it to you, then I go around stealing it. But we're not so used to thinking about this in terms of our emotional well-being and our emotional and our mental states. So that's really the flip around and the different side that we get to explore this. So let's look at what do you have to give yourself? Because if you don't have it for yourself, you can't give it to anyone else. So let's take stock of what you've got to give yourself.
So there's these different areas in our personal lives, in our professional lives, in our social lives, and in our spiritual or religion lives. Like, what is it that I have to give to myself? And we'll find that we have relationships within all of these areas, whether it's personal, professional. So it's like there are relationships. And the next part that we're going to jump in explaining perception is projection is going to show you how what it is that's being projected back to you is really what it is that you have on the inside of yourself, for yourself. And the biggest part of us being able to make this acknowledgement will allow us to choose another way. What that another way is, but luckily we live in a world of duality, and in this world of duality, up has got down and left has got right. So the one end definitely has another end, and what that is really what we get to look at. So perception is projection, which is the next one. It's really one of the universal laws that we like to work a lot with. It says that my perception about myself will be projected back to me. So if I have a powerful perception about myself, that is what will show up in my world outside of myself. But if I have a weak perception of myself, like I'm not good enough, I can't do this, and that story goes and goes and goes so much deeper, then what will show up outside of myself is just that.
So we're not really used to, again, thinking of stuff like this. This law of perception really says that we don't really perceive anything. What we perceive is a projection in our minds. And yes, intellectually, it might be easy to understand this, or maybe not. But once you've heard this law before, then it is kind of easy to understand. But the application of this is a completely different story. To really understand what this law means is to practice it. Because until you really get to that point, nothing is going to change. You're just going to continue to blame the world outside of you. Whereas this law is saying there's no blaming happening. You are the reason. And if you are the reason, then you can change how you are thinking, but that's really what requires effort from us, and the acknowledgements from us, and the awareness from us, is what are we doing in our minds that is causing this projection outside of ourselves? And how do I see myself? Because it's how I see myself that is going to be projected back to me by the world around me. And that leads me very beautifully into my pretty little picture of the kitten. So I actually, when I was a little girl, I loved scrapbooking. And I had this picture. It wasn't exactly like this, but it was pretty much like this picture. And I would move it from the cover of my scrapbook to scrapbook to scrapbook every year. I always had this picture around me. My mother probably still has it if I were to ask her. And it meant so much to me as a child. And now I get to look at this and realize how this is just more reinforcing that same conditioning of the world, of how do I see myself from the world's point of view? How do I see myself with my physical eyes? But this is not what the law of perception tells us to do. The law of perception has got nothing to do with anybody outside myself. It's got nothing to do with how I look in my physical form. It's got to do with how I perceive myself, what I perceive of myself.
That's really interesting how this whole concept of game of life started. It started with this question, like, how do you see yourself? And it's almost like a question that's like, what do you mean? How do I see myself? Like we have these five senses. So if I stand in front of the mirror with my physical eyes, I will see an image on the outside. And I can feel, and I can smell, and I can taste, and I can touch. But that's not what I'm talking about when I'm asking, how do you see yourself? If you were to look at your character, the essence of who you are, your heart, the love that gets to radiate out of yourself, if you get to see yourself as that, then great, we are on a good road. But if you're not seeing yourself like that, if you're seeing yourself like you are not safe, you have to protect yourself, and some places you can't be yourself, you need to put on a mask and act a certain role, which all of us have I want to say, mastered already up until this point, because that's how we've been programmed. Then how I see myself would be through the eyes of the world, because when I'm in this environment here, I need to do this little dance and be like this. And when I go into a different environment, imagine in your professional life, the CEO of this company, or the finance person. It's like a role that we get to play. And then moving into a different space, like being a loving father and husband and son-in-law, it's like a different role that we get to play. So that's not what we are talking about when we say, what do you see yourself? And that's really what we get to connect with and be like, I am this. Like all of a sudden there's a label slapped onto us.
So if we go back to perception as projection, and how I see myself is projected back to me by the world around me. And I can only give what I've got. Then the question is, what do you give yourself? Because what you give yourself will show you how you see yourself. So if what you give to yourself is a little bit of crazy, then how you're seeing yourself is through the eyes of the world.
Which means a little bit of crazy will get to show up outside of yourself every now and then.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful picture. And this thing about what you give to yourself is such an intimate, internal thing. It's that relationship that you have with the deepest part of you, with the essence of you. Like, are you showing up for that? Or are you showing up for these roles? So if I look at this image, I can make up a story that this is a mother who is under time pressure, and there's a whole lot of dishes that have not been done or have been created. And she needs to go out. She's got a meeting and she's getting her hair done. And it's like crazy. And this conflict inside of her, because she's got all this pressure and she is believing that she herself is this mother who's late, who's got these children who are disrespecting her, and she's got commitments that she needs to get to. So if she believes that she is those things, what is she seeing in herself? And what is she giving to herself? And what in turn does she, from that space, have to give to her children, her colleagues, her partner? What do you give to yourself? And where in your life do you show up like crazy? I can think of a couple of places I do it still. So how do you show up for yourself?
Yeah, that's really a deep question. How do you show up for yourself? Yeah, I have this thing where I say that nobody is going to give me peace. Peace is something that if I want it, I'm going to have to give it to myself. And if I'm in this place where I can give myself peace to me, I will have peace for you. But up until that point, I will not be showing up for myself if I'm not giving it to myself. And we've been conditioned in this way that it will be given to us. We just need to put this mask on and do this little dance, and then we will get what it is that we want. Most of the time, it is acknowledgement. Just see me, that I'm good enough, acknowledge me. But we don't have that for ourselves. So in showing up for myself, there's nothing selfish about it. It actually says that because I see myself as important, I can see you as important. But if I don't see me as important, why should you be important?
Yeah, and remember, this is not the importance from the eyes of the world. It's a very different importance. It's Absolutely. A very different feeling. It's a very different perception. This is not an egoic perception. This has got nothing to do with anything outside of me. This is me, just me, without the labels. So how do you show up for that? And I think we spoke about it last week, that we are so used to thinking of self-care as bubble baths and chocolates. And while those things are amazing, you can absolutely do them, a lot of them, and not be loving to yourself. You can do them and still see yourself very much through the eyes of the world, and even be doing it for the eyes of the world rather than for yourself.
Sure.
So to break the madness, the mind eats oxygen. And when the mind does not receive oxygen, it starts to eat itself. And it does that with neurotic, incessant, often judgmental thoughts that come over and over and over again and completely break that peace that you were talking about.
Yeah. So being able to acknowledge this, again, a lot of work is done only just making a acknowledgement. So in acknowledging that this mind just gets to go on this
Tangent.
And it's just like for hours the story's running and running, and there's no stillness, there's no peace, there's no kindness or caring for myself. It's just I'm on this roller coaster, and it's like life is happening to me, and it's like it's hectic. Like we can go back to that mother that is got all the dishes, and like there we go. That is a mind eating itself.
And remember, perception is projection. So when the mind eats itself in that way, what are you giving to yourself? And what is going to be projected back to you?
Exactly just that.
So let's stop the craziness. There we go.
So this is like super important, being able to just stop, take a minute, because the craziness comes, and in us making the acknowledgement that this mind keeps going, in us making the acknowledgement, it is it's really easy for us to have this newfound awareness where every single time that that this happens, the craziness comes, we can say, oh wait, I see. And because I see, I can stop and I can breathe deep into my diaphragm, like feed my mind the oxygen that it needs. And what happens if we get to do this breathing exercise, like within 2 minutes, you'll feel a difference. Within 5 minutes, I promise you, there will be space in between the stories. There'll be a story, there'll be space, nothing, and then another story. And it will continue like that. Better, the longer we breathe, the more space we create, and have a stiller mind. And within that space, we get to choose again something else.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is really just reminds me of meditation. Like, and this little orky over here, little elephants, just like breathing and meditating. And I want to quickly share with you that meditation is wonderful. It's an amazing practice. I've meditated for absolute years, so I don't want to diss meditation. However, it's great to be able to have this clear, still mind, to breathe and create space in the mind when you are in a room with nobody else and there's quiet and you turned off your phone, and that's the time for you to meditate. But it's a completely different story going into your life. And the whole point of meditation is that we can create stillness and space in our minds, not during meditation, but in life. And that's the thing where we often fall short in meditation, is the practice starts and stops in the chair, and then you step into your day and that completely falls away. So this practice that we have of breathing, and if you've joined us before and you're going to join us again, you're going to hear more about breathing, because it's so important to integrate the space that we're talking about, which is really stillness. It's peace. This is the gap between the thoughts. To integrate it into your day is the only time where we really get to make a significant difference in our experience. So deep diaphragmatic breathing as a form of meditation, right? And this is not where I need to just be still, and although you can just be still and do it, but this is also something that can happen in a conversation, in an argument, in a meeting. Those are the best times to do this, where you're still participating in what you're doing, but you just deepen your breath. And as you deepen your breath, you send oxygen back up to your brain, and you feed the mind what it eats rather than its own thoughts. So deep conscious breathing.
And that brings us to the giving and the receiving that happens at the exact same time. So Let's look at perception is projection. The first step in perception is projection says that my perception will be projected back to me, but it goes much, much deeper. It says that every single person that shows up in my world is a projection of myself. So if you were to look at 5 people that you really like and the qualities of them that you do like, you will find those 5 qualities inside of yourself. Yet at the same time, if you look at 5 people that you do not like and those qualities, you will find even those qualities inside of yourself. Maybe you'll find it in your personal life, maybe your professional life, maybe your social life, like somewhere part of that quality is going to show up, and it's going to be like some part of yourself that you are in non-acceptance of. So the giving and receiving happens at the same time, says that what it is that I give, I receive. So if it is love, I'm receiving that. If it is fear, I'm receiving that. And I think the best way to explain this is imagine you've got a pebble and you throw this pebble into a pool, into a pond. It's going to make those riffles. So like as it goes out, it comes back in. And imagine you take love and you throw it into a pool of awareness, like it's immediately going to come back. And that's really what we walk around doing in this life, is we just take stuff and put it in this pool of awareness, wherever it is that we are going. And then what comes back, if we don't like it, it's like the way for me to take responsibility is to know that what I'm giving, I'm receiving.
But then, so it seems quite easy that, like, if I want to receive love, then that is what I must give. And why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I give love if I want to receive it? That's because there is a villain in your world. And we like to call him the trickster, but you may more commonly know him as the ego. And what he does is he takes this certainty, this peace that is what you want, love, say, this pebble of love in your awareness, and he puts a little trick of doubt inside that awareness. And as a single instant of a thought of doubt enters your mind, peace is broken. That space that you created in your mind from breathing, that stillness, the minute there is a thought of doubt, that peace is broken. And when that happens, there's this internal conflict that arises. Because now you've taken stillness, perfect wholeness, love, oneness, and you've split it with a thought of doubt. And that creates this conflict. And with this conflict inside the mind, perception is projection. This conflict gets projected outwards. And there will be some kind of conflict in your world, in your awareness. And then what's happened is that pebble that you threw into your pool of awareness, instead of it being love, is now fear. And that is what you receive back to you.
So what to do with this is whenever that doubt gets to show up, we just allow the feeling of that. And as soon as the mind comes to attach any story to that, we say, cancel, cancel, cancel. We let this go. We allow this feeling, because the only constant in life is change. We allow this feeling. It's going to be there for a little while. It wasn't like this earlier. It's not going to be like it later. I'm just going to allow this in acceptance of, and then letting it go. And in letting it go, we did not buy into that doubt. So there's many tricks that comes up with. That's one of them. There's the trick of control. There's the trick of attack. There's a list full. But for now, look at just this one. As soon as doubt comes in, Just cancel, 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 making sure the story is not going to latch onto the feeling. And once we get to cancel the story and just allow the feeling, it's like we're going to get back to that space of peace. It's not going to be gone. It's just for a few minutes, I'm going to experience this, and then this is not going to be there.
So I want to explain this in a little bit of a different way. Perception is projection. It says that how I perceive myself is projected back to me by the world around me. And really, where this goes a little bit deeper, is that everything around me is a reflection of myself. So when I have judgments on myself, when I have judgments on anybody else, what perception is projection is telling me is that I have that judgment on myself. The subconscious mind knows no difference between me and you, between me and you, between me and this. It knows no difference. It is all me. That's all the subconscious mind knows is me. So when I have a judgment, or when I think that I'm right, or when I am angry and I have a grievance, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how justified I may think I am. What I am doing in my mind as I think those thoughts, or with my words, as I use my words, what I am doing is telling my subconscious mind that this judgment, this grievance, this anger is directed at me. And that is what I get to give myself. Now, if that is not good enough for you, we get to go, the minute we become aware of that judgment that's really been made on me, cancel, cancel, cancel. Undo, undo, undo. Control, Alt, Delete. Remove it. Because then we get to take responsibility. And remember, in the beginning, when we started speaking about perception as projection, I said, to really understand this law, you will practice it. Because if you really get it, then you understand how everything comes back to me. The buck stops here. There is nobody in this world that I can blame for anything. It is all my responsibility, my projection. And what is it that my projection is giving to myself? Because that is what I get to show up with to the world around me.
So cohesive coherence, this connection between my mind and my heart. It's one of the core human needs that that each and every one of us are walking around with. It's called love and connection. It's really having this connection between my mind and my heart, where my mind will go to consult my heart before anything goes out of my mouth. So as I say, this is actually one of the core human needs that we are driven by. We will have this need met in our worlds, either constructively or destructively. And the way in which we get to meet this need destructively is we run around in this world and we are searching for love and connection outside of ourselves. That's like super tough. I think most of us here have experienced that at some or other point in our lives. Like, I will be enough, I will be whole if this other person outside gets to show up and be a very specific way. But that's not what love and connection is for myself. If I have love and connection for myself, I get to practice this connection where whatever comes up in my mind, it goes to my heart. It says, hey, can I do this? Can I say this? And my heart will be like, no, that's not loving. And then I'll be like, okay, no problem. Thank you. I got it. I just had to check in with you. And to have that, what I am giving myself is kindness, because otherwise it's so easy to just project whatever it is that goes up in our mind what it is that's going on there, just project us on the world outside without even thinking that I'm actually doing this to me. So cohesive coherence.
Now, we're so used to being up in our heads that actually the easiest way to achieve this is to just focus here. Just go back to the heart and to feel what the heart is feeling, and not to attach any kind of story of good or bad or right or wrong or whatever. Like, it's irrelevant. Your heart feels. That's what your heart does. To ask your heart not to feel is like, it's like telling a sailor not to drink. Like, it's not going to happen. So to know the nature of the mind is to think, and the nature of the heart is to feel, and to just allow it to do what it does, rather than being sucked into it and sucked into the drama of it and sucked into the victim of it. Because remember, the back stops with you.
So we have all been born with this sense of right or wrong inside of ourselves. If I was to say to you, come, let's go rob a bank, what would you say? You see, based on our values, it's like immediately, no, that's wrong. I will say, don't worry, I will give you a gun. It won't even have bullets in, just to look cool. And you'll still be like, no, I don't want to do that. And that's really the sense of right or wrong inside of myself. But if I were to say, hey, let's go and clean up that park and plant a few trees, like, let's actually do something for the environment. Even though that's a lot of physical labor, it feels like, yeah, this feels good. And this sense of right or wrong is inside each and every one of us. It's something we've been gifted with right in the beginning when we started this journey.
How many times have you had an experience where you look back and you go, man, I knew that? How many times? Like, many, countless times. So you always know. You don't always listen, that we know, but you do know. So with that, there is your willpower. And that's your willpower, is your power to choose. And what we normally do when we look back and go, oh, I knew that, that is us exercising our will not power. If we were to exercise our willpower, our power to choose, then if we knew, why wouldn't we have chosen that? But we're so used to not using this willpower, using this will not power, that by default, these decisions just get made for us, or we just go through life bulldozing where we go, and it doesn't kind of matter what gets destroyed around us, because we're not really aware of what we're doing. Because we're not exercising the greatest power that we have, our willpower, the only power that we have.
So with that, we say, stop. Stop every single time you get to experience this upset on the inside. And listen. Stop and get to listen to yourself, to a point where, what is it that this sense of right or wrong inside of me says now? It's like, it says no. Why does it say no? I think that I need to be here and I need to do this, but let me check in with this. And then sometimes it's like us not wanting to do something, like, imagine, let's go and clean a park and plant a few trees. It's like a lot of physical labor. So listen to what it is that this sense of right or wrong is saying, when it says no and when it says yes, and listening to yourself. It's a challenge to listen to somebody else, but being able to listen to yourself is the greatest gift you will ever give yourself.
Yeah, that's really being able to stand in your power, to listen to yourself. That's not giving your power away to the world around you. That's standing strong in your personal power, saying, this is what is good enough for me. This is what I am being guided to do. This is what I want, and not where the wind is taking me, what somebody else outside of me, or some role that I have assigned myself or someone else has assigned to me with this expectation on it. It's not that. Listening to yourself is only respecting the expectations that you have on yourself, and that's not your ego self. My ego self has got plenty of expectations on me.
And the world around.
And the world around. Sorry, my darling. I'm working on it. But my true self, the self where I know who I am, the self where I'm secure and I'm certain and in my power, where I get to show up as the pure love that I am. That is the self that I need to listen to. And that is the only way where I get to give to myself so that I can give to the world. And when I give to myself, I receive for myself.
Flow is a constant practice of choosing presence over doubt. So choosing presence means that I've gotten to this point whenever my mind is under attack, that I can acknowledge, like, this does not feel good, and I can stop and I can breathe. Sometimes it takes me 2 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. I don't care which one of those minutes it is. When I get to that space, I get to stop. Because as soon as my stories buys into this doubt and the internal conflict starts and my mind is under attack, I get to attack this outside world. And that's not loving, not to me or to anyone else. So being able to have this awareness that this doubt is taking away peace. So for me to have presence, to be in this moment, I'll feed my mind the oxygen that it needs. And in doing so, I get back to the state of peace. It's a practice, like you say.
Yeah, it is. So much has been said about flow over the last couple of years, and it's really been described as this state of hyper awareness where inspiration comes, and especially in athletics where you can achieve superhuman feats. Is that right? Feats, yes, superhuman feats. But flow is really simply being in this present moment with no thoughts that come to interrupt my peace. It's a consistent state of peace, which is a consistent state of presence. And when we can do that, that's where we get to show up for ourselves. That's really where we get to give to ourselves. Because remember, the only thing that exists is this present moment right here, right now. The past is gone. The future does not exist. Right here, right now is the only thing that exists. So if I am to give myself anything, I have to be present in the space of all there is. If I'm stuck in the past or in the future, then all I'm giving myself is fear, which is emptiness. There is nothing. I'm giving myself abuse. I'm taking my own power away. So to bring yourself back to the present moment is to bring yourself back to your own personal power and step back into a state of flow. And that's really where you get to choose again, because this trickster that we spoke to you about just very briefly tonight, this ego is going to consistently interrupt your peace. Consistently.
That's its job.
That is the only purpose that it has, is to keep you away from yourself. Because as soon as you see yourself, he does not exist. So to be aware of that and know that this is a practice, this is a lifetime's practice of consistently choosing presence over doubts and consistently choosing love over fear. And when we do that, then we really have to give. We've got to give to ourselves, then we give to ourselves, and we have that to share with the world.
That is how the giving and receiving
Yes,
happens at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, if you guys are as excited about this stuff as we are, this is just a drop in the ocean. It is a tiny little bit of content. And like we said in the beginning, this is not about teaching you anything new. Like, I'm sure that there's hardly anything here that you guys have not heard before. But how well are you practicing it? How well are you really living it? And there's a reason for that. It's very difficult to do this work because of that trickster. But you can outsmart him. And there's many tools and techniques that we've got up our sleeve to expose him and to bring you back into a space where you truly get to give to yourself. And you get to make this perception shift from fear back to love. That is where your personal power is. That's where your freedom is. That is where miracles happen in that space. So we've got this incredible program where we really help you to take this work and make it your own so that you can really show up for yourself, not for anybody else. To take the mirror away from the outside world and to bring it back into your inside world, to really make that shift. Because that is the thing that we so easily get to avoid and get distracted by, this doubt of the trickster over and over again. But that is where the gold is.
Yeah, so this is really experiential in nature. It's something that you get to experience. And once you know, you cannot unknow. So from that point forward, the awareness, it's there. It's this little bit of action that needs to be taken every time that this upset gets to show up. And from there on, the subconscious mind loves us and it takes over that function 1, 2, 3. And then it's like, okay, on to the next one, on to the next one. And then it's like clearing up a path. It's a beautiful experience, and it would be amazing to share it with this world. Hello, Don.
Hello, Don. Thank you, everybody. Does anyone have any questions for us? You're going to ask us anything. We're here. You might as well use it.
We will give what we've got.
We will give what we've got. We have a practice of loving ourselves. And that practice has really made a significant change in our relationship and our lives. It's this practice of not expecting the other person to love us, but loving us first. And when we love us, then we can share that with each other. But when we don't love us, it doesn't work very well.
I have to, now I just want to share, I'm halfway into your program now, and I'm so excited. I'm just so grateful. It's the best gift I ever given to myself, and I just look forward to the rest of it, because already I have had so many beautiful experiences, especially with this breathing. I could never imagine how much is done for me, because I was so caught up in the stories, in my mind, in the judging, in everything. So it just calmed down, And also this acceptance, vibration of acceptance, really did it for me. I'm sure it's much more, but now I just have to understand it and practice. But I see it's really a gift for everyone, because this is really, yeah, I just wanted to share that because I'm very grateful for you two beautiful teachers.
Thank you, Monica, for
Thank
your
you so
beautiful
much,
words.
Monica.